Let me take this opportunity to rope in Major Mohammed Ali Shah, who's joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for joining us this morning, sir. Now, at this point, we're talking about Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in Ladakh currently. Now, he's going to inaugurate a revamped war memorial for the Jawans there. Now, tell us about the moral boost that this could be for the Jawans, especially ahead of the India-China talks.
It's a very, very big morale boost for the soldiers, because then we had the Defence Minister coming there and he leading by example in a way and showing everyone. So certainly it sends a big message across to China and also to our second front, to our not so friendly neighborhood, to Pakistan rather. So there is a quote over there in all war memorial. It says, "How can a man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods?" Also, there's one more quote which I read in the Kohima World War Cemetery when I was posted in Nagaland. And a similar quote is there in most of the war memorial, which says, "When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today." So our soldiers who actually fight on the border, who do not care about their own personal safety, who go beyond the call of duty and endanger their lives to safeguard the national frontiers, I think such a tribute always should be there, and it also sends across a very, very strong message. And yeah, so I think it is something which we all should appreciate as Indians, in fact.
Right, sir. And of course, another question arises with the revamp of this memorial. It also adds to the infrastructure that is present at the LAC. And of course, he is going to meet with several officers as well. What are your thoughts on this development, the revamp of the memorial itself?
See, I think it's a very, very good development, because most of our, if you go to Kargil, and in fact, I have been to the Kargil War Memorials on several occasions, and there we pay a tribute to our martyrs and to the, in fact, very interestingly, there is a picture of Raveena Tandon signing an autograph on a missile and writing, "To Nawaz Sharif with love from Raveena Tandon." So anyone who's gone there, it's a very, very famous picture. You all can see it over there. So when we have a leadership going there, there's a small anecdote, which a 30-second anecdote, which I shared to everyone in the year 2003, in the month of November. That was October. It was before the ceasefire, just before the ceasefire. One of the Jawan from the army, he was grievously wounded, where I was posted at the 30 meters away from the Pakistani post. Now, when this Jawan was wounded, and the commanding officer decided to come and see the Jawan, obviously. And suddenly this Jawan, who was a total hopeless, I mean, he was very, very badly wounded, and he had almost given up for life. He sprung out of action and saluted him and said, "Jai Hind Saab," with a lot of josh. And now that was the morale of the troop, when the leadership of the commanding officer, when he landed up there. So when the defense minister comes there to revamp the war memorial, it sends across a very good signal that yes, firstly, we're not here. The aim is not to die for your country. The aim is to let the enemy die for their country, firstly. Now, secondly, when we revamp this war memorial, it sends across very, very good signal, very, very good message, not only to the armed forces, but also to the civil population. For example, that area is largely dominated by the Shia Muslims in Kargil or Leh Ladakh region. So, or by people who follow Buddhism. So these people,
right,
it sends across a very, very strong message to everyone that our defense minister is there with us. He is there, going to stand by us through thick and thin.
Right.
Recently inaugurated 48 bridges, which also gave a very strong message that we are infrastructural ready as well, by all means.
Right, so stay with us. We now shift our focus to another story that's coming in with relation to China. Now, new satellite images have been surfaced and have been tweeted out by a researcher, by a satellite imagery expert, in fact, on a Chinese military development. Now, these images show purported constructions of Chinese villages in Bhutanese territory over the last year. Multiple new villages are seen spreading through an area of roughly 100 square kilometer. The disputed land lies near the Doklam Plateau, where India and China had a face-off in 2017. Now, after which China bypassed Indian defences to resume road construction activity in the region, the original point of contention between New Delhi and Beijing. Now, the villages were constructed between May 2020 and November 2021. Now, the visuals are on your screen. You can see 4 villages, in fact, have been constructed within a year. I have with me Major Mohammed Ali Shah, who's still with us on the broadcast. Thank you for joining us this morning, sir. Now, we're talking about the land grab bid that has been done by China. Now, we were earlier also talking about how China, in fact, has developed these 4 villages and the satellite images show clearly that these 4 villages have been developed in the disputed area between India and Bhutan. What are your thoughts on this development?
Well, China has always believed in salami slicing. They decide to enter into a country and try to grab the land. Just less than a year back, there was an attempt like that with China at Hamla district in Nepal, which is just 70 kilometers from Pithoragarh, that's in the Indian territory. And they had constructed pillar number 11 and 12 illegally. And the satellite imagery showed that. Now when China tries to enter Bhutan, and tries, because Doklam is an area, if you understand it tactfully in a military way, in a geographical way, it is it's on a very strategic location. It's got a valley and a plateau. And it is of high significance to all 3 nations, be it China, be it Bhutan, be it to India. And it is India's moral responsibility ultimately, because India trains Bhutanese army, who does not really have a strong military as such. So India is in a way responsible for the social sovereignty and integrity of Bhutan. So India has been an advisor to Bhutan, and Bhutan has been a friend to India for many years. And Bhutan has actually formally, officially opposed the construction of roads by China towards Bhutan. Now, if you look at it strategically, Doklam, that particular area, the name for Doklam in Bhutanese language, they call it Zoglang. The Chinese would like to call it Doglang. Now, it is an area, I explain about the strategical importance of it. Now, it is lying between China's Chumbi Valley towards the north and the Bhutan's Ha Valley. Ha is where the IMTRAD, the Indian base, their headquarters are in IMTRAD, the Indian Army's headquarters in Bhutan. So the IMTRAD in Ha Valley, and the east of India's Sikkim state, which is the Nathang Valley. If people who have been to Sikkim, they will be able to identify what I'm talking about, the Nathang Valley. From there, you can easily see Doklam. Now, in 1961, as per the Myanmar, they had said it is part of Bhutan area, but well, actually it is, if you rightly say, it is part of India, very much part of India, and Bhutan also, though in Myanmar's map of 1961, they say it is part of Bhutan, but Bhutanese also, because they are such good friends with us, they kind of, in a way, in a principle, they also agree, because it's a very happy country, they do not like to create tensions. And in fact, the Bhutanese king once was asked, what is the GDP of Bhutan? He said, GDP, we don't know, we only know of happiness. So Bhutan never wants to, in fact, entangle with the enemy, with be it China, be it anyone. They want to have pleasant relationship with all. So Bhutan also principally agrees to a certain extent that Doklam is our area. Now, when China enters into Bhutan and construct these and takes over these 4 villages, which they have been at it since May last year, let me tell you, May last year, 2020, they sped up the process, and that is now that in 2021, this year, a Chinese software company, some certain data was leaked, and in that the information came by 2025. They plan to, in fact, invade into Arunachal. They plan to invade into Japan. They plan to invade into Mongolia, into Russia. And they had a long-term plan up to 2060, right from 2040, 2045, 2050, 2060, what they'll do. So China's unethical measures of salami slicing, of their expansionist plans, they need to be curbed. And the best way to actually curb China is not only through militarily, but to hit the dragon where it hurts the most, which is the economy.
Right, sir. Thank you for joining us and providing such an in-detail explanation into the situation between India and Bhutan. We leave the story at that. Let me take another answer from Major Mohammed Ali Shah, who's still with us on the broadcast. Sir, now, of course, what can we expect from these talks? Now, we were talking about Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in Ladakh, in fact, ahead of this big development. Now, what can we expect out of these talks? Do you think there will be a significant development?
Well, Aarti, to be very honest, I really do not see much coming out of these military talks, because ultimately at the end of the day, we are soldiers, we are trained to fight. We are not trained for diplomacy unless and until there's a defense attaché or a military attaché going abroad and he's talking diplomacy with them. Well, and when there is no border, where there is no, you can see on YouTube, in fact, all of us who are watching over here can see on YouTube, there are n number of videos of the Chinese army and the Indian army coming face to face and saying this is our land. No, as per my map, this is our land. No, we are only doing our duty. We have to patrol up to that peak. Please let us go till there. We don't want to fight. So such thing, and this will go on. There is no end to it, Aarti. There is just no end to it unless and until we actually sit down and talk it out on paper. Like on 4th August 1914 in Shimla, there was a high-level meeting which was organized. That's where the Shimla Pact was signed, and that time the McMahon line was drawn. With a small-scale map, with a small-scale pencil and a small-scale map, a line was drawn. And if you go on ground, obviously that same line which you draw on pencil, on paper, will go on to over 100 kilometers. So now, obviously, when there's no line, there's no demarcation. No matter what, how many ever military level talks we can have, we've had 13, 40, we can go on further. But at the end of the day, you have to understand one thing, that the co-commanders who are meeting there on ground are also soldiers. They are soldiers at the end of the day. No, it may not be a Jawan or a Sipahi, who's a rifleman who's manning the border, but at the end of the day, they are soldiers. And no soldier is going to take an inch back behind. They will come. It cannot happen. And military, the strategy, I think, what is working in this place is that we would be only buying time. That's it, by these military level talks, which I consider personally as a waste of time. I don't see much of strategically important in this. I say they should be a high level political talks, diplomatic talks, and a permanent solution should come out from that. It's like buying property, Aarti. If you and I, we go into a deal of buying a house and you are my neighbor, and there is no contract signed, there is no stamp dated duty, there is no papers over there. So in principle, you say this is my territory, I'll say it's mine, and this will go on unless and until we legally sit down and sign documents, Aarti.
Right, sir, thank you for joining us and explaining, in fact, in detail, the issue between India and China and how the talks will take place.